Hello, I'm Deborah Malone, founder of The Internationalist and host of Internationalist Marketing TV. Today's guest is MK Woltz. She's Senior Director, Connected Commerce Media and Retail Media Strategy at Danone. MK, I just have to say it's such a wonderful pleasure to see you again. I know you've been at Danone for 8 years, but the reality is, we all start somewhere, and I do remember you from the agency world, and I'm just so thrilled to see how well you've done and how you've really become such an expert in a very special area of media. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deborah. Thanks so much for having me. And I know that's one of the things I love most about this industry and this career path that I've chosen is all of our lives eventually come back together.
So we hope. Or so
It's
we hope.
exactly, it's such a small world. So it's awesome to be here and reconnect.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, let's jump in because I did say you've become quite an industry leader in a very specialized area. And that area is retail media, which probably when you and I first met didn't really exist, or not, it's certainly not exist in the format that it is in now. So, it's moved from shopper marketing add-on to one of the fastest growing media sectors. So from your vantage point, MK, what has fundamentally changed in how brands think about media?
Yeah, I think if I feel like media is not just, a separate layer on top of like commerce or shopper marketing. It's all embedded inside it. And so I think that, also obviously the funnel has changed and there's so many different choices that we have as obviously consumers and then us as media professionals to get in front of the most desirable consumer. But I think that brands used to optimize for awareness first and then kind of convert later. And now, media, because of, the funnel is collapsed essentially, but media decisions are now expected to drive measurable business outcomes across all of those different touch points, no matter, where it lands in the consumer path to purchase. And so I think that's shifted thinking from just having mass impressions and reach, yes, toward incrementality, but then also, moment-based and influencers and other touch points that are even closer to the physical, like in-store, media at the shelf, or obviously like digital from a you know, search standpoint and whatever else that we're, trying to get in front of those consumers that we want to recognize our brand. So
Food brand in particular. I mean, it can't be easy because you have all of those avenues open to you.
yes. Yeah, it's super complex and it's large categories that are also very highly competitive. And we want to create very culturally relevant, amazing brands that last a lifetime. And we do have quite a bit of those. I mean, Activia, Oikos, Silk, International Delight, all massive brands that have, been around for, long time. 20 plus, 30 plus years. And yes, there's so many different consumers that we interact with. And there's, because of the choices that we have, not only to connect with them, but then also how many choices there are when that consumer gets to shelf. That's why it's so important for us to stay top of mind, have relevant messages, utilize the right, even talent or influencers that are going to help us stay relevant and be that choice when consumers are making that decision. So yeah, it's complex. Used to be easy to media plan.
No. And not only that, when you start to realize also the shifting demographics that are
Yeah.
going on now, and also, certain yogurt products. I mean, you mentioned a number of standout brands and how some of them might appeal maybe to older, loyal consumers, but sometimes they have to be reintroduced. I mean, there's just so many nuances choices. But back now to retail media just for a second, because it
Yeah.
sounds like there's probably 50 topics that we could talk
Yeah.
about. But retailers now sit at this really interesting intersection because of data, particularly first-party data,
Yeah.
distribution, media ownership now. So again, how's that shifted the dynamic between brands and their retail partners? I mean, it's I don't know how much access you have to some of that data.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a huge industry shift where it's like, at a consumer packaged goods manufacturer like us, our customers are our retailers, right? And now these retailers have become media publishers and data providers and measurement providers. So that was like a big shift that we, undertook a few years ago when it started to rise here internally, and one that I was helping lead and spearhead. And so it's interesting because yes, our retailers have access to shoppers. That's where our products and brands are sold, but they also have so much data in terms of what defines shoppers' intent and loyalty, and also access to media channels that we are interested in purchasing either on their site or off-site using that valuable data. So I'd say I think that brands, need retail partners. Obviously, we need them because they're selling our products, and obviously vice versa, right? But they also need to brands to help fuel that growth, right? Whether it be what's on the shelf, but then also now that we're seeing from a marketing and advertising standpoint. And I'd say like the dynamic that I think is most successful that we strive toward is less transactional and more collaborative. I'd say like, yes, joint business planning, not for the sake of like, counting the dollars and cents that are going to be spending with certain retailer, but more so, how are we putting the best plan together that's going to drive growth for my brands, bring new people into my brands, continue the healthy trajectory that they are on, as well as, testing and learning. We've been like really on the forefront of a lot of first to market initiatives back when Walmart Connect and 8451 were really starting up their businesses the past 5 years. So being good partners, testing, learning, understanding, having that agility, and then aligning on what is at the most highest level going to drive our categories and our brands, and look at that and continue to feed that loop of performance improvement and having those conversations. And yes, we have ROI and incrementality conversations, but having that like-minded business planning, I'd say sentiment where we're in this together, we're going to make, the best decisions for each of us and for the brands, and both having like skin in that game, I feel like has been where I've tried to, shift, not even shift, but like always have that mentality of retail versus retailer plus brand plus media.
It can't be easy, particularly in a competitive
Yeah.
category.
Mhm.
And you're in some of the most competitive categories, and it
Yes.
doesn't necessarily mean price driven. It means that there's a lot of facings of a lot of dairy
Exactly.
products or plant-based
Yes.
products, or that are in that cooler cabinet, as you walk around the edge of the store there. So that can't be easy. And I
No.
would assume it's not easy for you to balance kind of the short-term sales attribution with the long-term brand equity. I mean, I don't know how you do it, but it's
Well,
crazy.
yeah, it's really hard. And I think it's hard for, a lot of, you know, people in the industry to balance, and then also just like look at that, because you have to have both, right? Or else, like, if we're not paying attention to building our brands and making them relevant and meaningful and different and being out there, in people and consumers' minds all the time, then it's kind of like, all right, it's more transactional. But yes, we have to have short-term sales data to drive the volume and make sure it's delivering what it needs to out in the marketplace, right? But if that becomes the only success metric, then I think that's pretty incomplete. And I think what we tried to do is set clear roles for the different channels or different investments. And that's why I have this new like retail media strategy role added to my responsibilities. And that's what that is designed to do, is to help us work together across national media, omni-channel activation, which is, historically our shopper marketing customer teams, and really understand what tactics are designed to do and what they're put in the plans for, how they're used to create that, existing demand. And then also how do we look at things to create that future long-term, brand building demand, if you will. So, and, I think that's becomes pretty surgical. And I think that we try to use a lot of those, all the closed loop measurement and the rich signals and data that we get from a lot of these retail media partnerships to help inform, right, some of the signals and insights that we're utilizing in our campaigns and media for those long-term brand building, right? Not to replace that. So I think that those two things are how we're trying to tackle that. And they're both important. They both serve a role. It's just not one at the expense of the other.
Which is also not an easy thing to balance. You mentioned something. You were started to talk about your role, and I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I think your role also includes sponsorship and licensing. Is that correct?
So
oh my goodness. So
well, not mine personally.
Yeah.
I did handle sponsorship. I think our last 3 organization, but now that is outbound, inbound licensing, as well as sponsorship sits with one of my peers in our team now. But it sits within our total team, right? So it's a piece of what we're responsible for.
Well, that's got to be fascinating to figure out where, the experiential and the cultural partnerships can fit in more of a performance-driven environment. Can you talk about that at all? I mean, that's got to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, we've tried, and we, have whole teams that are focused on social and culture, and us getting out there in, real life events and driving that engagement, right, as one piece of that. But we always try to integrate those things into, what we're doing, if we can, right? So like for International Delight, we're launching a new product that was a cold foam creamer. And obviously one of the insights and reasons why we developed that product is people are going to coffee houses for cold foam. It's a trend that younger demographic enjoys. So it gave us a entry point to look at an incremental audience. And then one activation that we had was being at Coachella for the past few years. And so that's an experiential type of event where then we're there to create content, there to be in front of new audiences, and then utilize that within our media ecosystem, and then, learn from it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of like more on an example on the experiential end. And then sponsorships, we have a few big ones within our overall, I'd say, enterprise sponsorship effort. Like US Open and Evian has been a long-term partnership for many, many decades. And then we have a new one with Big Ten, which is athletic conference within many different regions now of our country. And the reason why we did that was to create relevance with audiences within college sports for Oikos and Silk, and then also help connect that into where we're selling our products at certain retailers into that ecosystem to make it more meaningful across multiple places in our organization, not just marketing. It goes to customer marketing and sales, and really trying to make it more holistic and also find those right partnerships that match uh, what the purpose of what Danone is about, what we're trying to do, to bring health through food to as many people as possible. So if you think about college students and the food that they have available to them, whether it be urban or not urban campuses and lots of different types of demographics, that's a great place for us to be able to show up. And so anyway, little long-winded about that initiative, but that's how we're trying to bring, I'd say, experiential partnerships. Brand collabs is another one, into what we're doing from a total marketing standpoint.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. I
Yep.
can see those college cafeterias now, just
Yeah.
stacked with like some healthy food, Well,
Yes,
it's interesting.
exactly.
It's interesting that you mentioned healthy because I
Hmm.
do remember a number of very interesting examples that you've done in terms of what your overall mission is, which is to help feed the world and do it
Yeah.
with a sense of health. And I know that you've partnered with a lot of organizations that deal with food insecurity and so on.
Yes.
And I
Hmm.
think a lot of people may not realize that Danone is a B Corp, and it might
Yes,
be one of the world's largest B
it
Corps.
is. Yeah, I think
And yeah, and that now does that wind up informing or influencing any of your media investment decisions, or is the industry still kind of working through that?
Yeah, I think that it's still maturing in that way, the industry, right? I think increasing, I think it'll probably get there. It's like, yes, who we are selecting to, work with, from a media standpoint right now is really, factored in terms of, are they credible, transparent? Do we have long-term trust, right? And then our brands, because we are a B Corp and because we're, all about some of those key tenets of bringing health through food to the masses and having that premium nutrition, that is meaningful to consumers, especially today, right? A lot of our brands also have sustainability efforts, and doesn't mean every campaign like leads with that, but there's natural alignment and synergies that are happening, within, I would say. So I think over time, we will, I think from a media investment standpoint, continue to see like that, hopefully increasing in terms of, um, how that trust and where we're putting our money and, how we want to show up as a brand is it's that, full kind of connectivity. So
Yeah, and the world changes. I
yeah.
mean, who would have thought that GLP-1, for
Oh, I
example,
know, right?
would have become taken off to the point that now, the need to, as people eat less, the need for more protein
Yeah.
or the need for
Hmm.
healthier foods. I mean, that's got to help you. And we
Yeah.
started at the beginning mentioning changing demographics, but I
Yeah.
would think that, and again, I don't know this specifically, but I would assume that a good number of people who are using GLP-1 through doctor recommendations might be older because they put on a bit of weight and they're beginning to see diseases, whether
Yeah.
it's diabetes or whatever it is. So, you've also got products that are probably
Yeah.
easier to digest, so I mean, I know you're looking for young people, but it seems that
Well,
you've got such a massive group, and I don't know how you micro target some of that.
well, it's interesting you mentioned the GLP-1 because of all of that, consumption of those drugs, and yes, people's digestive systems working differently, and the need for high protein as well as high fiber, and nutrient dense food. We created a specific product, Oikos Fusion, which is a shake that's high in fiber and protein, that is specifically for GLP-1 users, right? So it's like opened up category innovation for us and will continue to do so, which I think we're seeing across many different categories in food. So yeah, it's interesting. And I do think, yes, we have such a vast portfolio that we have infant formula all the way to, yes, like some of our brands that people would classify as targeting older consumers, like some of the pain points that we're talking about, like digestive and microbiome and Activia, things like that. But I think all of that health talk and health information that's out there and what you should put in your body, what you shouldn't, what's going to help X, Y, and Z, helps us kind of transcend all those different generations and open up entry points for many of the brands. So
It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating, because you're
Mhm.
doing so many things, and I think that the juggling is quite extraordinary. Let me ask you something as we wind down here, although I
Yeah.
have a feeling we could talk all day, to be quite
Yeah.
honest with you. You've moved from agency leadership to enterprise retail media strategy. What was the mindset shift that was required to make the transition successful?
Yeah, I think, well, if I think back to when I first, moved from agency to more brand manufacturer side, my North Star is always like, I want to learn something new, try something different, take my craft skill that I'm, love and passionate about and have a lot of experience in, and then take that to a more, yeah, like enterprise working, type of organization. And I think it's it's interesting because it's been more about like, yes, I work on campaigns for certain of our brands, right? And um it's not that I don't do that. I feel like it's the shift around building more like frameworks that scale, aligning multiple different teams, repeating, the impact that we had, teaching others, continuing to flex that, cross-functional muscle in terms of, many different groups coming together to, move things forward, make a decision, things of that nature. I would say is like one of the things that I can pinpoint like a difference in when it was from agency to um, to more of like this, strategy thinking type of role and then implementing that. And it's also new, right? So it's like I joke, I'm like, I feel like I'm building the plane as I fly it. I'm not the first person to say that or think that, but it's true. It's like things are new, it's uncomfortable, it's fundamentals that I know a lot about, and I have a lot of wonderful, smart colleagues in and outside of the walls of Danone helping, but it's new territory, and that's what also makes it fun and interesting to think about how some of the strategy recommendations and ways of working and how we're moving forward will impact many teams here and like how we go to market, how we make ourselves even better than we are today. So,
Has always impressed me about you is just how humble you are, but also how innovative and how bright you are in terms of making media really come alive, or the
yeah.
decisions one makes in media, how it comes alive so that they do bring results and and the brands become memorable. And
Yeah.
you've done that just so well. And I think and I hope we continue talking, because I think
Yes.
we're going to see more changes even in retail media, because
Yes.
it seems that so many other areas, it's not only supermarkets anymore, but it seems that everything in media is changing. To the point that I'm not even sure if we can define what media actually is. I mean, it can be
Yeah.
anything really. Um,
True.
so now, well, now that we've left it on such a
Yeah.
nebulous point of view, so no, but I'm really delighted to hear what you have to say, and you're working with such a wonderful brand group and at a global level.
Yeah.
Anything else that you'd like to add in terms of what you find is as not only the most challenging, but the most delightful part of the work?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. And like just from us talking about it, it's nice to talk about it and remind myself of like how impactful and, how fortunate I am to work at a company that has all of these amazing brands that do so many things for so many different people. And, getting to be a part of that in a big, large global organization that's making a difference with a lot of the things we talked about from B Corp to what we put in our food. We're positioned really well to continue that growth, and so that's motivating, exciting, and yeah, I look forward to keeping on the plane.
As it flies. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
And you've done wonderful things, and also thank you for the way you give back to the industry, because I know that you don't hesitate to step up at conferences or to be interviewed, and that's really important to share that knowledge. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, and I won't say goodbye. I'll say until the next chapter. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I look forward to that one. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
The Internationalist focuses on the continual reinvention of marketing by highlighting inspirational marketers around the world and their ideas as they move the industry forward. Internationalist Marketing TV shares these perspectives through interviews and personal stories. Thanks so much for watching. If you find this kind of content helpful, please click like or subscribe. Again, thanks so much.